Okie dokie. So first, before we start, I'd like to warmly welcome the Syracuse Weavers Guild, who will be giving us a presentation about their guild themselves and the current exhibition we have, Better Together, Woven Expressions from the Syracuse Weavers Guild. We're really thrilled to have them. This is just a little housekeeping. If everybody wouldn't mind making sure that you're on mute. The only people who will be on off mute, will be the speakers. And if you have any questions, we will be able to get to them at the end. But please put them into the chat. And what I'll do is at the end of the presentation, I'll read off the questions from the chat. That way we keep it a little bit organized. And if you would like to speak, when I get to your question, you feel free to unmute yourself, and then you can talk to the Weavers directly, and we'll work that way. So without further ado, Elaine, take it away.
Thank you. Well, good evening, and thanks for joining us tonight. My name's Elaine Du Bois. I'm a member of the Syracuse Weavers Guild, and I'm joining you from Skaneateles. First off, on behalf of the Syracuse Weavers Guild, we'd like to thank TIAC for inviting us to have the show and to do this artist talk. What fun it is. We're truly honored, really, to be invited and to have a show and to be part of this. So thank you. And to give you a little bit of background about the Syracuse Weaving Guild, we were founded in 1960 by a group of professional women from Syracuse University. Our mission is to stimulate an interest in the art and craft of weaving, achieve a high standard of excellence, and help and encourage an interest in weaving. We accomplish this at our monthly meetings through lectures, slide talks, demonstrations, field trips, and hands-on workshops. We also have an annual Guild Weaving Challenge to encourage members to expand their creativity and skills, and a traveling loom, which is a fully dressed loom passed among members that focuses on a specific technique or structure. And we have a long tradition of an annual towel exchange. So the Guild has had ties with TIAC for a long time. For years, the Guild held their first meeting of the year in Clayton in honor of Mary Snyder Day. Recently, the Guild started a Helping Hands study group to assist Marina and TIAC in any way we can. And we really enjoy being able to lend a hand while learning about some of the amazing textiles in the collection. And we get an opportunity to see them up close, which is invaluable. So the theme of our exhibit is Better Together, and we've thought a lot about what that means to us, how we're all interconnected and draw on each other for inspiration and guidance as a guild and as part of the larger weaving community, and also how various components of weaving come together in a final piece. As Aristotle said, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So we have 4 artists tonight speaking about unique elements of weaving. So let's get to them. Our first presenter will be Karen Jean Smith. Karen has been a member of the Syracuse Weavers Guild for 40 years. She began her formal education in weaving at Buffalo State College and went on to teach art at the elementary level for 33 years. Her experiences with the process of weaving include working with a variety of weave structures, fibers, and looms, with her 45-inch 8-harness shat loom being her favorite because of the complex weaves that it makes possible. Karen also enjoyed making clothing over the years and has found the isolation of the pandemic helpful for getting things done. She has received several awards at the New York State Fair over the years, including Best of Show. She was chair of the Eastern Great Lakes Fiber Conference held in Skaneateles in 2003. She is honored to be part of the Better Together weaving exhibit at Thousand Islands Art Center. Karen will be talking to us tonight about color, how she uses it as an element of her weaving. Karen?
Well, hello. Thank you very much. I'm really delighted to be here. My talk will be about some of my experiences with color, as Elaine said, and then maybe even more importantly, how the Syracuse Weavers Guild has actually contributed to the development of my work over the years. So next slide, please. This piece is one of my most recent. As Elaine mentioned, our guild presents a challenge each year. And in this case, it was to weave, cut, and sew. And that's something that I really, really like to do. Next, please. Here you see a portion of the back of the vest. The green and black fabric started the same way, and that is with the same black and purple warp. For those of you who are not familiar with weaving terms, I'll explain that a little bit. The warp threads are the ones that we start with on the loom, and then the weft is woven across the warp. The variations of color that you see here were created by using different colors in the weft. So next, please. As you heard, I taught art at the elementary level, and so the color wheel and color value in terms of tints and shades became ingrained in my soul. Next, please. These are a few of my early weavings using mixed color. And you'll note that the colors follow the color progression in the color wheel, resulting in bold and happy pieces. And while my use of color has changed significantly since this time, my love of color progression has really stayed the same. Next. Several years ago, our guild decided to participate in a group project involving Mayan hands yarns. Women in Guatemala were taught to dye cotton yarns with natural dyes, which they could then sell. And in so doing, they were able to achieve a degree of independence. We all had a really great time weaving towels with their yarn, and we put the guild towels around in this little circle so we could look at them all together. Next, please. Here is a sample from my towel, which does not look like this anymore. I've used it quite a bit. This affords a clear example of how I achieved my color gradations. You'll see that the number of threads of each color are increased or decreased in a very orderly way. It's very basic, but it really works. Next, please. The Syracuse Weavers Guild began one year with a program about block weaves, basically a device for designing weavings. Once we had an understanding of block design, a group of us decided to try it and also form a study group. We could each decide on our fiber and weave structure, and in my case, these were cotton for the fiber and summer and winter for my pattern. And then you'll note my beloved color transitions in this finished piece. This one is part of the exhibit at TIAC. Next, please. So here we have a few close-ups of the weaving. This weaving was woven with 30 threads to the inch, and I admit that it was a bit of a struggle for me. Okay, next one. Very generous members of our guild, one of whom is here with us this evening, set up traveling looms each year so that those interested can try something new. And in this case, the tabletop loom was warped for weaving overshot. This is a type of weaving traditionally done with a foundation of white cotton, and a weft pattern is created with a color of wool. Having had previous experience with overshot, I decided to try some color mixing with the two colors on the wool. Okay, next one. When everyone who had wanted to try out the loom had done so, I was able to do a bit more experimenting with my color transitions. And in this case, I used 4 colors instead of the traditional white background. I wove with gray in that. So it was white in the warp, but gray in the weft, that background, a light gray. Okay, next one. Finally, with the sample piece, I put some yellow into the background of it. By the way, this pattern is called Royal Crown. After all of this experimenting, I found I was motivated to do something really different with color the next time. Next. So I set up a dark background warp for a larger piece. This is a bit unconventional for overshot, but I thought it would be interesting to try. There is a progression of the 4 darkest colors that you can see here, those where the cones are standing up. And this progression across the warp is very subtle due to the similarity of the values of those 4 colors. If you look carefully, though, at the sample on the bottom, you can see a red-violet cast in the very center of the woven area. However, the lighter acorn color contrasts with both the warp and the weft, creating frames for the color and pattern transitions. Next, please. So again, the traditional pattern weft is wool. In this case, the progression of color is obvious and key to the overall design. The patterns are both royal crown, once again, and hopvine. And then next. So this was the final result. This is in the show at TIAC. I titled this piece Twilight in the Woods after it was completed because Twilight in the Woods is exactly what it brought to mind. Thank you so much for your interest. And that's all.
Okay, our next artist will be Sue Zatka. She's a veterinarian by profession and a maker by nature. She graduated from the New York State College of Veterinary Medicine at Cornell and worked in Enwell, New York before opening her own feline exclusive practice, The Cat Doctor. She practiced veterinary medicine and surgery and multiple crafts for many years. Since retirement in 2021, she devoted herself full-time to fine craft work that includes copper, silver, and enamel jewelry, stained glass, fused glass, and flame working. She's also been a very accomplished potter for over 20 years. She began her weaving career 14 years ago at the Rochester Folk Art Guild, where she now teaches the beginning weaving class during their craft weekend. Her current work includes horsehair raku pottery and functional wear, as well as hand-woven wearables, fine linens, and art wall pieces. In July of 2023, she presented a solo show of her weaving and pottery at the Broome County Arts Council Artisan Gallery in Binghamton, New York. She's represented by 2 galleries in New York State and has won several awards at the New York State Fair. She is a member of the Syracuse Weavers Guild and served as a first and second vice president for a total of 8 years. Sue is also a member of the Weavers Guild of Rochester and the Shuttle and Spindles Guild in Newark Valley, New York. She lives in the town of Maine, New York, with her 5 cats and lots of looms. Tonight, Sue will be speaking to us about rep weave and other interesting weave structures and patterns. Sue?
Thank you. Welcome and thanks for watching our presentation today. As Elaine said, I'm Sue Zatka and I'm from Maine, New York. Next. This is my fuzzy sidekick, Mr. Pip, who's often found helping me around the house. He helps make the bed, fold the laundry, and of course weave. I guess he likes textiles as much as I do. Next. Weavers often classify themselves as either color or pattern people. As much as I love color, I love pattern and structure the best. There's nothing so satisfying and exciting as watching a pattern emerge as each row of thread is laid in. One of my newest favorite techniques is rep weave, which was featured in my show last summer. Next. Here's a short video of that show. Rep weaving is a very old technique historically found in South America, the Middle East, and North Africa. More recently, it's become associated with Swedish rug weaving. In rep weave, the warp threads, which are usually the vertical threads, are set very closely together. In my case, there are 48 threads to the inch. And these warp threads completely cover the horizontal weft threads. The weft threads alternate between a very thick fiber and a very fine one, creating thick ribs separated by narrow lines. The warp threads alternate between 2 colors, with only one showing at a time, which creates a reversible textile where the back is opposite colors from the front. I always loved the look of rep weave, but was hesitant to try it since there were so many threads needed in the warp. Most of these pieces have between 800 and 1,000 threads in the warp. I finally plunged in and found that all the work in setting up the warp was worth the pleasure of the finished cloth, where I could form different designs to my heart's content. Next, please. I'm very inspired by ethnic designs and textiles. The centerpiece of last summer's show was kimono, a large triptych accented with gold metallic fiber and handmade tassels. Kimono is included in the TIAC show. The inset shows some of the detail. Next, please. African Kuba cloth is a type of raffia textile made from woven palm leaves, and it's exclusive to the people of the Democratic Republic of Congo. The beautiful, intricate designs and natural colors are very inspiring to me. So here's my rep weave interpretation entitled Bakuba Gift with an inset of some of the detail. The image on the right is some true Kuba cloth. Next, please. I'm also inspired by African kente cloth woven in Ghana. The cloth is woven in colorful, narrow strips, usually by men, and then sewn together to form garments and other items. My version on the left is also accented with cowrie shells. The inset is an image of kente cloth design. Next, please. These are a few other pieces from my show, all in rep weave. Next, please. I'm also known for my colorful towels that are found in 2 galleries in my area. I love making towels because they give me the opportunity to explore many different weave structures, patterns, and colors. Besides rep weave, my favorite structure is twill. Next, please. In twill, instead of each thread alternating over and under, the threads skip 1 or more fibers, creating a stair-stepping pattern. Some of the variations in twill patterns are seen here in close-ups of some of my towels. The patterns in twills are just endless, and they are wonderful. Next, please. Here's a scarf made in a plaited twill. Next, please. Next. This shawl is woven in a networked twill with a hand-dyed warp in tencel, the previous slide. Northern Lights, which is a framed piece in this exhibit, was created on this same warp. The swirling pattern was designed on the fly as I wove. Now you can go next. In my challenge project for this year, I explored crackle, a new structure for me. Next, please. I also experimented with a 3-part clasped weft technique for the center motif. Next, here are more examples of the patterns, textures, and colors that weaving can produce. There's a deflected double weave, color and weave, false damask, and Swedish lace. So many choices. I cannot imagine my life without weaving and cats. Thank you for listening, and please visit and enjoy our exhibit. That's the end.
Thanks, Sue. Our next speaker is going to be Donna Connery. She joins us from Berkshire, New York. Professionally, she was a hydrogeologist specializing in hazardous and radioactive waste remediation for 24 years before becoming an earth science teacher at Union Endicott High School. And she taught there for 16 years. Since 2021, she has enjoyed a carefree retirement. Donna is the incoming president of the Syracuse Weavers Guild, as well as being the guild librarian since 2019 and the secretary for the past 2 years. She's also a member of the Weaving Guild of Rochester and the Shuttles and Spindles Weaving Guild of Newark Valley Historic Society. Donna participates in 2 complex weaver study groups, Bateman Weaves and Early Weaving Books. Like our other presenters tonight, Donna has won many awards, including the People's Choice Award at the Chattahoochee Hand Weavers Guild in Atlanta in 2023 for her Ruana titled Sparkle Within. Her Violet Protest Square was included in an outreach package that went to the Oval Office in 2022. She's also a featured artist in the PBS documentary on the Violet Protest, which will be released later this year. Donna is especially proud of being the recipient of the very prestigious Thousand Islands Art Center Inaugural Award for the World's Best Volunteer Coordinator for 2023 for her effort in bringing the Syracuse Weavers Guild and TIAC together again. In addition to pursuing her passion for weaving for the past 10 years, Donna also enjoys counted cross-stitch, embroidery, sewing, quilting, and knitting. Donna will be talking about social engagement, a cause for weaving. Donna?
Elaine, thanks for that surprise. And hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm so glad that you're here supporting the arts and the Art Center. I'm going to take us in a little bit different direction. We've talked about color and structure, and I'm going to take us into a little bit different realm. For this part of our talk, I get to describe how I combine my love of graphic design, color, and texture with with service to create socially engaged art with my hand wovens, expanding that idea of better together. So what better way to kick it off than with a picture at the art center of me and Harriet with the rest of our guild team working together to accession and more than 150, I think, pieces of Janetta Jones into the collections at the Hand Weaving Museum. Next, please. The first piece I'm going to talk about here is really thanks to my dad. Because of him, I've spent much of my life as a devoted earth scientist and space scientist. And when this famous picture of a black hole was taken in 2019, I could hardly contain my excitement, and I knew I needed to create a weave for it. This picture is the result of a collaboration of 8 teams of scientists from around the world who worked together to accomplish this. And so here's my piece. If you would go to the next slide, please. This is the result. What you see here is the companion piece to one that's actually in the exhibit. And I call this another nudge for science. It's symbolic of pushing the limits of knowledge one step further, which is what this picture did for us. It's called an echo weave, and I think it's aptly named for the appearance of the concentric light and dark circles emanating from the center. And one of the challenges I had was to accomplish the color, the brightness of those colors. So of the light part of the black hole. And so I used about 12 different, hues of red, orange, yellow, and gold. And if you look at the picture on the left, you can see that assemblage of all those different colors to make that happen. Next, please. So as Elaine mentioned, I've been very involved in violet protests for the past several years. In this project, in violet protest, artists use color as a proxy for unity around core American values, with the idea that red plus blue equals violet. This was the brainchild of Ann Morton, who's a fiber artist in Phoenix. And she inspired more than 2,000 textile artists from all 50 states to create about 13,000 original 8x8 pieces of art for the sole purpose of sending them to Congress to send an impactful message to them about how we like to see things move forward. And in this picture, this is actually in the Phoenix Art Museum. And after this installation was removed, those were all packaged up, and we were able to send 25 pieces of art to every member of the House and the Senate and the Oval Office to make our point. Next, please. The first series that I did, my first contribution, I guess, that was woven, is a set of 10 squares that I did in this pattern. To me, it looks like a brick wall of red and blue suits holding hands, which is my message I'd like to get to Congress about unity. And so I started calling this bipartisan support structure. Although it got a point across, it did not achieve violet. So I really had to do better, and I embarked on some more pieces. Next, please. So to achieve violet, I didn't have a good plan other than I knew I had to warp my my loom with equal parts of red and blue to make violet. And then I just started yarn doodling in this technique called clasp weft, where you just pull the weft yarns back and forth to make a pattern. Eventually, from these kind of non-specific shapes, an idea sparked for them to become more meaningful for what we were trying to accomplish. And I decided to create silhouettes. Next piece, next, please. And so what I did was I made about 20 squares that I call family values. And in these pieces, I used my extended family as proxy for the diverse citizenry of the United States. This one happens to be my favorite, happens to be the first one, happens to be my husband. And so what I'm most proud about is this is the piece that actually went to the White House. Next, please. And here is just a sampling of my family. The best part of making these, I think, was talking to everybody for 2 hours while I was weaving them. Discussions were kind of interesting to me. But none of these are in the show because everything went to Washington. So I have, you know, little bits of scraps, but I have none of the completed pieces. Next, please. The last that I'm going to show you is in the show, and it's I think to me, it's a true example of how we truly are as a guild better together and as people better together. It started with a guild double weave challenge, as people have talked about the guild challenges. It was, in addition to that, when we do challenges, we usually form study groups. So I got a big push from my study group to weave big. I'm usually weaving smaller pieces. The third piece of this is the palette itself, the color palette itself. I was working with my nephew on a piece for his girlfriend, and he and I were picking out colors, and we came up with this rainbow of green, which I just thought was amazing. So I used a new color palette. And then this was COVID time, so there were a million things to work through. And so the piece I ended up with, if you go next, please, is this piece called Sparkle Within. And this is one that's in the exhibit. So it's a double weave fabric where you actually weave two distinct layers simultaneously. So this is a ruana, which is basically a fitted cape. And it has the black outer layer, which symbolically I think is what we show the world. It has a green inner layer, which is, I kind of think about who we really are. And then you have exchanges of color between the layers, giving that glimpse into both worlds. And it's those exchanges of colors that actually hold the two pieces of fabric structurally together in this piece. Next slide. And this is the last slide also. This just shows some details of that piece that were challenges for me as I was weaving them, but actually became kind of fun challenges to solve. It's woven in 3 panels. So what was important was that the alignment of the motif would happen. And you can see the alignment in the right-hand side. So it turned out pretty well. The second piece was that I wanted this to be a reversible garment. And so how you join the panels became important. So the way I accomplished that was when I wove the 2 outer panels, I left the flaps of fabric, the green fabric and the black fabric open so that I could just insert the center panel into that and then seal it up. And so it turned out to be a good solution for how to make that reversible garment. And then the last piece, and I think it's kind of my favorite part of the piece, is if you look on the left-hand side picture, you'll see there's a ribbon of green along the outside edge of the black. I accomplished that by weaving the 2 layers different widths, so the black is narrower than the green that's behind it. And so what you ended up seeing is the ribbon that I created of the spectrum of the green that outlines the whole piece. And that's it. That's what I have to share with you. Thanks so much for listening, and back to Elaine.
Thanks, Donna. Now, our last artist presenting tonight will be Nancy Smothergill. Nancy learned to weave in 1972 through an adult education class in the Syracuse Public Schools that was taught by a past member of the Syracuse Weavers Guild. She has served as president of the Guild twice and both vice presidencies a couple of times. For many years, Nancy is our go-to person to arrange the Guild's traveling loom projects. That involves planning the project, dressing the loom, and writing instructions so the Guild members can explore new structures and techniques. In addition to the Syracuse Weavers Guild, Nancy is an active member of the Weavers Guild of Rochester, and she is one of 5 volunteers who runs TWIST, the Tablet Weavers International Studies and Techniques organization. Nancy has a degree in child psychology and taught at the university level as well as kindergarten. A teacher at heart, one of her loves has been teaching others to weave. As a kindergarten teacher, Nancy took looms into her classroom. There were always placemats woven from strips of paper, too. Now that she is retired, Nancy has taught weaving for several years in an adult recreation program, as well as weaving to elementary school students in an after-school program. Nancy has given several workshops on tablet weaving and small band weaving at the Weaving and Fiber Arts Center in Rochester, New York. And of course, her grandchildren have not escaped the various weaving projects while visiting her cottage over many summers. Tonight, Nancy will give us a retrospective of a lifetime of weaving. Nancy?
Thank you, Elaine. Hello, this is a younger me at tablet weaving. Tablet weaving being an ancient off-loom band weaving technique. I'm not the oldest member of the Syracuse Weavers Guild, but I'm the one who currently has been in the guild the longest. I joined the guild in 1973. I think of my weaving history as journeys into different trends and exploring different structures and techniques. When I got my first loom, an 8-shaft, 42-inch Herald loom, I headed off in many directions: yardage, wall hangings, table linens. Next. One journey was into the riot technique, an example of which is in the exhibit. And another journey was into making clothing from yardage. Next. We moved to Southern California for a year, and I took along my 8-shaft shack table loom and discovered Theo Mormon while my young daughters had the chicken pox. And while in California, I joined a guild whose focus for the year was woven mandalas. Next. Between those and the Theo Mormon, I loved taking various tapestry journeys. When I started teaching kindergarten full-time and with young children, I put away the shaft looms, but then I headed into a journey with band weaving, since that was portable and I could attach myself to a dock post at our cottage and weave while making sure the kids did not drown. First was inkle bands, but after that became boring, I learned to tablet weave. That has become my most loved journey ever since. Next. When Linda Hendrickson's book, Please Weave a Message, came out, I plunged into tablet woven calligraphy. I joined Twist and have been the treasurer and membership chair since 2013, and I've written several articles for that journal. On retirement, the shaft looms came out, and I acquired an 8-shaft baby wolf. Next. At that point, exploring various structures became the next journey, which paid off when baby blankets for grandchildren were called for. Next. And the shacked looms worked together with my shacked inkle loom for a contest Shack had called something like I Wove It on My Shack. The warp is over the 3 shacked looms, and the piece, next, was purchased by Shack to hang in their showroom. One day, while weaving dish towels with rose path radishes, next, I started singing the song from the Fantastics, Plant a radish, get a radish. This led to a fascinating journey of combining tablet woven calligraphy with loom woven pieces as a background. Next. This piece is in the exhibit. I viewed that journey as finding my voice in weaving. My grandchildren took me to see the Lego movie. Next. And of course, Everything Is Awesome got stuck in my head. To get rid of it, I made it into a wall hanging with photos of them and Lego work, which were printed on fabric and cut into strips, inserted into a Theo Mormon warp, something I learned from Daryl Lancaster. Next. I was much more satisfied with this wall hanging in the same technique. In fact, it hung in an exhibit at TEAC several years ago. While still pursuing tablet weaving with my shaft looms, I seem to concentrate on dish towels and table linens. The dish towels to give as presents when we travel. Several towels are in the countries of Georgia, Slovenia, and South Africa, for example. I also seem to be less productive recently, probably because I have concentrated more on getting the guild traveling looms ready and teaching various classes and preparing for guild programs. But those are journeys I really enjoy. Last but not least, I've tried to instill a love of weaving in my 4 grandchildren. Next. Vacation time at our cottage is a perfect time to bring out the craft projects, and most involve fiber. Next. This was the favorite project, a rag rug woven on a hula hoop loom. The project came from hand woven. Next. What I remember about this project was furiously cutting fabric strips to keep up with the 4 children weaving on their hula hoop looms. Next. I look forward to more journeys in weaving and treasured time together with members of the Guild. Thanks for listening to me.
Well, that concludes our artist presentation. That was a lot of fun. Thank you. I'd like to extend our thanks to all of you who took time to be with us tonight, to Tiak and Marina for inviting us and for all the work she put into putting this exhibit together. And of course, our talented artists that presented tonight and all the others that have work entered in the exhibit. If you've not yet seen it, it will be on display until May 24th at the Tiak Gallery. And there will be a reception on May 9th from 4:30 to 6:30. So please come out and support Tiak and the artists. No matter how you define it, we truly believe that we are better together. So thank you for joining us. Marina?
Yay! I'll clap for everybody. Yay! Wonderful job, you guys. I want to say they approached me and said that they had no real experience presenting, and I would beg to differ from this presentation. You all did an amazing job. Well done, all of you. Beautiful work. It was very exciting to see some of the other pieces that you're capable of making, and seeing some of the ones that we currently have in our galleries up there and hear more about them. It was wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, so if anybody has any questions, please feel free to drop them into the chat. I see we have a couple things in there right now. Let's see what we've got. I'm working on 2 screens here right now. Yeah, so here we have Karen, your work is very beautiful and inspiring. Yes, agreed. Oh, Sally. Hi, Sally. So we have one of our board members here with us. Welcome, Sally. And she's saying, can we carry some of your work in our gift shop? I would agree. Anybody interested in carrying your pieces, if you're willing to sell them, please reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you. Yeah, Sally Ogren, also 2 Sallys in a row. Can't wait to see the show in person. Yes, Sally, I'm so happy you'll be coming. We have a group coming to use our collection space and do some research in our library. It's very exciting. Anybody is welcome, by the way. Just make an appointment with me. I'm happy to open it up for anyone. Our collections are here to be used and to be seen. I love having visitors. We actually just had 2 visitors from the Little Loom House today. They spent all day with us. That was wonderful. Here Gail says, what a lovely way to start the evening. I agree, Gail. Congrats to you all for wonderful work and presentation. I'm so inspired. Yes, agreed. So is there any questions for everyone? If not, that might conclude it. Thank you. And as Lane pointed out and mentioned, we do have a reception. I hope everybody can join us. For more information, you can go to our website, tiartcenter.org. There is a tab for exhibitions, and under current exhibitions, you can see when the show is up and when the reception will be held next week. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to me. We have recorded this talk and I will be posting it, so please feel free to share. as soon as it's up, I will be posting that link on our social media accounts. So in the meantime, thank you everybody for joining. Thank you so much to Syracuse Weavers Guild, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Take care. Bye-bye.